Hello everyone, I've missed you guys. I've had the recent opportunity to have an extended hospital stay for surgery. I won't go into the details because it's not important. The only reason I bring it up is because the subject of this video is something that I've been asked for 40 years as I practiced Buddhism, and the opportunity as it presented itself was that, and I apologize ahead of time if I wince or do weird movements or anything, please don't be alarmed, it's just recovery. Anyone who's been through surgery will understand. So, enough of that. Suffice it to say that my hospital stay afforded me lots of singular opportunities and an overwhelming complete opportunity to chant Daimoku. In situations like these, like all human beings, for some reason we need a good kick in the head to really up our determination, up our resolve, up our expectation of a result. Preferably a favorable result, but sometimes just a result. And I got to thinking about that, and I wanted to make this short video to answer the question, why chant, why mantras, why any of that? Why not just silent meditation? But even that is a form of chanting. And why is Daimoku so particularly singular? And there are a lot of words in the Buddhist teachings regarding this subject, but I want to take this very human moment to answer you person to person. You know, what is a mantra after all? It's something we repeat, and it has some kind of special relevance to our lives, to us personally and generally. So let's start from there. The word chant, or in French, chant, there's a lineage and an etymology here that goes back to vocalizations, singing, popular music. But I want you to also consider that this is an activity our mind is constantly doing anyway. See, we don't generally think about that, and that was the great moment of clarity that came to me in the hospital as I was trying desperately to cling to my own sense of reality, wrestling with medications and so forth, and the nature of the thoughts in my brain, in my mind. The brain is a great tool and gateway for our minds, but it is not our mind. At any rate, that's a different video. Psychiatrists had a label for this. They said, you're playing old tapes. And we discuss this in various ways, but it's hard to pin down. But basically, it's like this. From some point early in our lives, we made certain assumptions or decisions or choices about the self we construct that we call a self. And that self has messages like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not loved enough, or I'm better at this than anyone, or I'll never achieve this, or I always do this, or I only attract that, and on and on and on. All the way down to our preferences in cheeses. But I don't want to get too sidetracked. My point is that whether we hear that conversation going on in our minds at that moment or not, that conversation is constantly ongoing in our minds. You're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Oh, I'm going to try this, you're not good enough. I'm going to make this happen, you're not good enough. It's in there. Even if you don't hear it, that moment of hesitation, that visceral pause, even a subconscious angst or desire to derail something that's going on, fear, it's all based on fear. I want you to understand that those little voices, whether you hear them or not, but you damn well know that they influence your every single breath and move and thought in this life, are mantras. They're mantras. They're repeated vocalizations that we train our minds to envision our experience of life. So, what is a mantra? Obviously, these messages we give our mind are important. They definitely shape the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves, the way we see others, the ways in which we are accepting of ways of seeing ourselves and others. This gets very profound. How many layers of obfuscation do we set up with these mantras that become solidified, that become almost impenetrable? How do we change those things? So a mantra really has no value to you unless it is transformative. It needs to lead you to change. It needs to open doors. It needs to provide opportunity for insight. So there's that. We do this with pop songs, right? We repeat and we chant pop song lyrics because somehow they're meaningful to us and relate to what we think is our experience of life. They are mantras. You can call them taglines. You can call them what was really popular. Anyway, you know what I mean. So, where does Daimoku sit in all of this? Well, before I dive into that, I want you to understand that all of this talk about mantras and the little voices and so forth that play in our heads come with, even if it's just, I'm not good enough, that little mantra comes with a tremendous complexity and backlog of thoughts, decisions, moments, life experiences, perceptions, cognitive perceptions that have formulated this idea that culminates in these few words, I'm not good enough. Because it's not I'm not good enough that is harmful. It's what the I'm not good enough stands for. Because when I say it is different than when you say it, than when she says it, than when he says it. We all have a different backlog and database of stuff that's represented by I'm not good enough. I'm never loved. I can't be loved. There's a whole freight train of information that's attached to those words for each one of us, and it's different. So mantras, I hope I've demonstrated, powerful in the extreme. So if I have any hope of breaking through these mantras, for which I now have very little knowledge of the freight train and its creation, I just know it by its surface template. I couldn't tell you the complexity in the database that informs it, maybe in small parcels, but not the whole thing. How do I penetrate that? How do I move it? How do I move the needle, as it were, from major obstacle to mild obstacle to negotiating the obstacle to disempowering the obstacle to simply disappearing the obstacle? How do I move that needle? How do I compete with that mantra? And if there's an answer to the question, what is Buddhism? Buddhism is about doing just that. Buddhism, as I've said many times, is a mental science. It's a mental method. It's a mental exercise. Much in the same vein as Einstein, Niels Bohr, Heidegger, and all of them used thought experiments to work through problems. Put your mind to work for you instead of you trailing behind the mind of all of these little mantras. So the method of Buddhism is to use your mind, your human mind, to study and open gates and understanding into the functioning of your mind. And in so doing, dissecting and disassembling those mantras. But it's extremely difficult, and it's extremely time-consuming. So what Bodhisattva Nichiren did is he said, look, in this teaching of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni says, look, it's not that unique. It's not just for special people. Anyone can do this. If you just attach your study, your resolute mind, to these 5 characters, Myoho Renge Kyo, if you study the meaning of those characters, the essential teaching behind each of those components, that mantra, Myoho Renge Kyo, will have the resonance that will blow apart these little walls, these doorways. Even if you're not conscious of doing so, this mantra will penetrate to the core of your being to begin to move the needle. Does that make sense? This is the uniqueness of the Daimoku. The Daimoku isn't just random words magically entrancing you. The Gohonzon, as a physical object for our human mind to seize upon and focus, helps to conduct our chanting, our oral and our sound in our ears and our bodies and our breathing to a vibration and sound that carries with it all of the knowledge we are studying, and it's in the Gohonzon. There's no mistake there. The Gohonzon is a representation of all the Buddhist teachings, and quite literally encapsulates the entire sermon of the Lotus Sutra, and more. So the Daimoku is unique as a mantra. It's not just an abstract thing, it's a very, very, very personal thing, because it is tailored to your individual experience. That is the difference. Your Daimoku and the power of your Daimoku is shaped by your study. And I don't mean you have to read many books, although, yes, that's one way to go. And it's certainly the way to go that's talked about most often in Buddhism. But it's also watching this video. It's also reading other books. It's also feeding your mind whatever way your brain tool allows you to do it, experientially, reading, listening, orally, however you personally come to your knowledge of life, the way your mind works. The Daimoku is tailored to that specifically. This is why Namu, I resolute, I am determined and resolute in this Myoho Renge Kyo, that whatever needs to occur in my psyche, in my experience, in my perception, in my being, will move this needle toward liberation from my own suffering, the creation of my own suffering, my own obstacles that I create, that I envision, that I hold, that I have, karma. This is the specificity of the Daimoku. I hope that answers some of your questions, any doubts you may have. But this is how precious this practice is, because it isn't what everybody does. It is what you do. I've said it before. This enlightenment is your enlightenment. I can't give it to you. I can't see what it is. No matter how much I want your awakening, I cannot do it for you. And I can't even offer it to you. I can only say, look, here are the tools. Here is this amazing path that no matter how serious or not you take it, any determination at all in doing it will bring results. Sometimes mind-blowing, other times harder to see. Those databases are profound and deep, but they are changing. After 40 years of practice, I absolutely guarantee it to you. So I wanted to keep this short. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm going to try to edit this on a new piece of equipment I've gotten, which I was able to get through your generous donations, either through Patreon or directly to me, or through Cocoscope and other things. If you can do that, it's amazing. I'm so grateful. But I'm also grateful for those of you who can simply just watch and learn and put in the comments questions that are relevant and engage my practice. You keep me going. Thank you. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much. Bye for now.